Hey, welcome to ACC Nation. Will Ogenin, Jim Quist, and what's going on in ACC basketball? A lot. And we have got that plus a little bit of baseball to toss in just for the fun of it. Hey, Will,
Hey, Jim.
gee, how many coaches do you think are going to be looking for new jobs?
Well, we already know two or three are, right? Because we know Georgia Tech fired Damon Stoudemire. Um, we know Boston College fired Earl Grants. And at some point, maybe this happens by the time this comes out, Hubert Davis might be gone at North Carolina.
Hmm. So let me get your opinion on this because, we've kind of bounced this around a lot. We've got this old school way of doing things in well, a lot of schools do this. They go, okay, well, let's find somebody who has gone to our school and understands the culture to be our coach. Well, that doesn't always turn out great, and
Mhm.
because a lot of people who are former players don't necessarily, as one of our buddies points out to us, don't always make great coaches. And we've seen that.
Mhm.
That's proven time and time again. Um,
Yep.
they often have to go someplace else for a while, get seasoned, work under
Mhm.
somebody, and work their way up the ladder in order to earn that, rather than just sort of suddenly be plopped into a position that maybe is a little over their heads. And I'm not saying
Oh,
who that applies
and
to. I'm just saying it.
yeah, and me and I didn't even mention the one, Red
Yeah.
Autry.
Uh-huh.
He was fired at Syracuse, and they brought in a former player who did go get some seasoning at Siena before being named the head coach. But still, like, and we can get into
Yeah.
these new coaching discussions later,
Subtlety.
but it's just yeah, they stayed within the family and actually got someone with coaching experience.
Well, good luck. I hope it works out because, I will be standing here waiting to go, told you so, if it doesn't work out. And I'll readily eat, the hat. It's not literally there, but I'll eat that hat if I'm wrong. And I've got a couple of hats to eat tonight when we're talking about two basketball teams in particular, one men's, one women's, and I have to eat a little hat crow, whatever you want to call it. We'll get to that here in just a couple of minutes. Let's start out just real quickly. Let's talk about top 25 baseball because the ACC's got a lot of great baseball teams and they're performing exceptionally well this season. Um, the one thing that people need to know with a top 25 and D1 baseball, it tends to be very reactive. So, it's like if you win one or two games, it's a good thing. If you lose one or two games and it's not in the right place or against the right team, boom, you could be out of the top 25 in the blink of an eye. Got a couple of teams that dropped out of the top 25 baseball rankings this week, um, basically because of that sort of thing. But real quickly, Georgia Tech is in the top five, still at number three. Virginia is at number nine. FSU is at 10. 13, the Tar Heels. At 14, it's the Wolfpack. And at 23, Notre Dame is sliding into the top 25 rankings. Clemson and Wake Forest dropped out of the top 25. I think that's a little bit of that reaction stuff. But it's like, hey, next week, we could be right back in. So that's a quick.
Yeah, and Clemson's dropped to 1-5 in ACC play, which is yeah disappointing. They're 18-7 overall, but yeah, the season is still young. There's a lot to play for still.
Indeed. Let's talk about the NIT, and then we'll eventually get into the WBIT, which I have sort of avoided to some degree, and I apologize for that. That's on my shoulders. But let's talk about the NIT and what's occurred there. This is on the men's side of basketball. Wake Forest fell to Illinois State 78-75, very close game there, and Cal fell to St. Joseph's 76-75. A couple of valiant efforts by those two teams, Wake Forest and Cal, in the NIT. No more ACC teams there.
Yeah, and just real quick, it's kind of like take a look at these two teams. A team that and Wake that probably underachieved the season a little bit towards considering expectations, and then a team like Cal who I think overachieved expectations. We're in discussion for an NCAA tournament bid until close to the very end of the season, and they kind of hit the skids a little bit, but both of those teams had, especially Cal had a really good season. Wake, we're going to see, obviously, Steve Forbes is going to be back for another year, but he's pretty much on the hot seat. Yeah.
Yeah. I am so glad that both of those teams decided to go ahead and go NIT route. I think that was a great thing for them. Gives them a little more exposure. People get a feel for what type of programs they have, who the coaches are, what it's all about. So you can never go wrong if you're getting TV time and people who are basketball, nuts, which we can all be at this time of season. Uh, you're watching, and maybe you're not familiar with either one of these teams from the standpoint of the basketball programs, and maybe you're a player in high school and you go, oh, I really like the way they're playing, or the way they look, or something along those lines. So you get that attention. Plus, your players who are coming back get that much more experience, and you put them into a tournament situation, which is a great bit of experience for them to have, because it makes them a little hungrier next season, and they're seasoned and they're ready to play in the NCAA tournament. Speaking of the NCAA tournament, we are into Sweet 16 time. So, my first crow or hat or whatever it is I'm going to eat here is Duke, because to be quite frank with you, I did not see Duke going very far. I thought, because of a variety of things, they were just struggling to some degree at the tail end of the season. They were pulling out these wins that were just like, wow, where's that coming from? But I gotta say, there's four players on that team that have been absolutely dynamic. The Boozer brothers, of course, are two of them, and they are right where they ought to be. So my apologies. And since they're the remaining ACC team, I know a lot of you who are fans of other teams hate the Dukies. That's fine. But remaining ACC team, for me, I'm an ACC fan. I hope they go all the way. Now, that will be hard to swallow for a lot of people who are fans of other teams. Just put it that way. Duke got into the Sweet 16 with a win over TCU, 81-58. They're going to be meeting number 5 seed St. John's, who just got by Kansas. A really surprising game, 67-65.
Yeah, that game, and just going backwards, I mean, one of the things that makes March so much fun is you end up on the edge of your seat watching Duke play Siena. I mean, for 35, well, Siena was in it in the entire game, but you could just tell those final few minutes, because Siena had no bench. They just were tired, and Duke was able to just outmuscle them and pull away. Um, and then in the TCU game, game was close for quite a while before Duke was able to pull away in the second half, went outscored TCU by 19. And we talk about the difference in the team, this Duke team. No Caleb Foster again. There's a slight chance he'll play against St. John's, but it feels like it's more likely than not more likely not he will not play. I'll get my words right there.
Right.
Um, but I think one of the things that has made Duke much better lately is in Foster's absence, the ability for Caden Boozer to really step up his game offensively. He's had a couple of big games in the tournament so far. I think he only had 9 points in that game against TCU, but it was everything else. He had 5 assists. Yeah, he just took a really good all around game against TCU, and he played 36 minutes. So it's not like he was in and out, but he's gonna again if Foster can't play against St. John's, that's gonna be tough because I think this is a really tough matchup for Duke against St. John's, and Zuby Ejiofor is probably one of the 10 best players in the country, and this is somebody who can really give Cam Boozer some fits.
Yeah, and we've seen that that is very possible because Cam Boozer has struggled in a couple of situations. I mean, that's not unusual. There's very few basketball players in any sport that are just completely dominating all the time. You just it's not possible, not physically possible. And Caden, I was just impressed as crap with his play. He has really stepped up, and he's been overshadowed by his brother, and I think that's a mistake on the part of people talking about Duke and about these two brothers and what's going on with them. If you're doing color or play-by-play, let's give kind of an equal, you know, kudos to both of those guys when they're doing that. Um, I think Caden made a huge difference in one of the games before his brother finally started getting in the groove. I think what happened was they started pulling off of Cam and because of Caden's play. But
Hmm.
um, you know, give everybody equal credit here, and I
Hmm.
think he deserves some attention.
Yeah, just one thing before we move on Caden. It was the against Siena. He had 19 points on 9 of 16 shooting, in a day where his brother was 4 of 11 shooting.
Right?
Yeah, and Dame Sarr was 1 of 7 from the field in that game as well. And some of their key players were struggling, and he was able to step up and help this team get a win in a game that's you know who knows if what would the talking heads say had Duke lost that game?
They would
Be
have
the third 16 to lose to a one,
lost their mind.
and
Yeah.
yeah, that would have been out. That would have been absolutely wild. And it would have been like just from the chaos of it all would have just made this tournament that much more special, especially after all the chalk we had last year.
Man, I tell you, in this season, despite looking at the rankings of people here going into the Sweet 16 or the seedings rather, um, has been an amazing season and has been just some crazy games, and it has been what it's always been. Some of the best show on earth. Let's be frank about it. College basketball. Yeah, I mean, this tournament is just so special. I could sit and watch this and no other sport pretty much the rest of my life and be happy as a clam if it's like it usually is. And this year has been crazy. So it's been fun to watch. Here's a team to keep an eye on. Number one, Arizona, number one seed Arizona. They're going to be meeting up with number four Arkansas. That could be a really good matchup. Arizona took out Utah State 78-66, while Arkansas knocked off the Cinderella team, at least for part of this tournament. High Point 94-88. And who among us, except for Arkansas fans, were not rooting for High Point to pull that one?
Right. I had High Point over Wisconsin in my bracket, so that one worked out really well. And then again, more chaos. I love chaos. We didn't quite get it in this one, but we got a really good ball game. Arkansas has a really good guard, Darius Acuff, who pretty much willed them to that win. And him going up against Arizona, who was my pick to win it all, I am really looking forward to that game.
So you're going to go with Arizona as your top pick?
That would be correct.
Okay. So how are you doing overall on your bracket?
Pretty well. I have a bracket. I kept the same bracket, but I'm in like four different, at least in four men's and one women's bracket. I'm first and second and one, and I'm like top 10 in the other two. And then in my women's one, when I last looked, I was in third place. So I
Not
and a lot of that was because I picked Notre Dame to upset Ohio State, which happened today.
Yeah, yeah, that was a great game.
And
Um,
we'll get to the women's
yeah.
tournament shortly, but yeah,
Um,
yeah.
did not get to my brackets, and I had stuff in my mind, and I will just tell you, I told you this on Messenger that based upon what I had in my head, I was out of this thing a long time ago. So it was like, I'm
It was
glad
for the best.
I'm glad I didn't fill anything out. It was pretty bad. I did notice that Yahoo sent out a notice saying that in their women's bracket there was only like a at one point there was only like 150,000 plus or minus people whose bracket was still good. And it was like knocking tons of people out. And so it's been a really fun run. I think it's probably more challenging for people to do the women's bracket, perhaps, than it is the men, because I think people tend to absorb more of the information off the men's side and have a little better
Mhm.
feel for things. I may be
And
wrong.
especially like well, the women's tournament tends to be really chalky early on. It's when you get into the second round when the talent is a little more level, I guess you can say, that you can start seeing these upsets, and we did today. Again, we'll get to the women's tournament in a minute.
So number three seed Michigan State will be meeting number two UConn. Boy, that should be one heck of a game. Michigan is there with a 77-69 win over Louisville, and UConn defeated UCLA 73-57.
Yeah, the thing I read this interesting article today about Dan Hurley getting offered the LA Lakers job a couple of years ago and him calling Tom Izzo for advice on that job. And he obviously he did ended up not taking the job, but it was just an interesting article because, sometimes going from the college to the pros, it does not work out. And and I think he thought long and hard about it and it and he ended up not taking it. But yeah, Michigan State looks really, really good again. Obviously, they took out uh, Louisville, and Louisville is just a big old what if with this season. If I thought, like I said, I said earlier that I thought they would win the league this year, but they were not able to do it, and it's just some of that I think is because Markel Brown was not healthy, and he missed like almost half I think he missed like 11 or 12 games this season, and they just they just weren't the same team without him. And I mean, Ryan Conwell was good in that game. He had 21 points and 7 to 15 shooting, but Javon Hadley was 1 of 8 from the field and was in foul trouble. They just, they just, they were not as good this year as I expected them to be, and that's disappointing. But yeah, I still believe in Pat Kelsey and what he'll do there.
Yeah, this team, and it might have been a little early to expect this, but of course injuries do play into this. Um, they just didn't seem to click.
I think that's a pretty good observation. And it's a little bit they just did, and some of that too is just as inconsistency too, because Brian Conwell was so inconsistent at times. Like,
Yeah.
like I said, in his last game, he was like 7 of 10 or something like that. But then you can get a game where he's like 1 of 16.
Yeah.
If he,
It's just, you're right. Inconsistency. It'll kill you. If you're going from hot to cold from game to game, or even parts of games where you come out and you're just on fire, and then you go cold the second half, um, you know, that's just going to kill a team, and it really kind of has. Um, so allegedly, and people have been saying, you really can't call number 11 seed Texas a Cinderella team. Sure, you can. If they're number 11 seed, I mean, you know, they've come a long way. So they are right now, they and Iowa at number 9 are the two remaining teams that are, Tennessee is still there at 6. But, um, so, I don't know that I would call anything that Texas does Cinderella, but it being a number 11 seed and coming this far is pretty amazing. They beat Gonzaga 74-68, and they're going to be facing the number 2 seed, Purdue, who defeated Miami 79-69.
yeah, I struggle with calling a power conference team a Cinderella, quite frankly. Um, but they went from, the playing game to the Sweet 16, and that's not the only the men's isn't the only side that it happened, but
Yep.
yeah, they still took out a 3 seed in Gonzaga, who, they were, yeah, they were good, but they weren't as good this year. Um, I just yeah that I just don't think that Texas is. I mean, they're one of those teams that are probably overplaying, playing above their head a little bit. We talked about Purdue knocking out Miami. That actually was a really good game. Miami was up 2 at halftime, but in the end, it was just the bigs of Purdue getting, Trey Kaufman ran and Oscar Clough, and yeah, and then the great performance by Fletcher Lawyer going for 24 points in this game. And yeah, still a phenomenal first season for Miami, finishing at 26-9 in year one under Jay Lucas. Far, far exceeded expectations, and yeah, the future is definitely bright for that program.
Yeah, that's exactly what they needed. Number 9 seed Iowa took out Florida, the former champ, 73-72. A really big surprise for a lot of people. They're going to be facing number 4 Nebraska, who just got by Vanderbilt, 74-72.
Two banger games right there. The Vanderbilt Nebraska game came down to the final, literally the final seconds, where Vanderbilt hit a shot with a couple of seconds left to ultimately give them a win. But then the heave from just past half court that almost went in. Oh man, I still don't know to this day. I've probably watched that replay at least 50 times, and I still don't know how that shot went in. It was the overinflated balls, but not. But then on Sunday, Iowa getting a 3 with 4 seconds left to beat the reigning national champions, the Florida Gators. Um, Got to give credit to Ben McCollum, the Iowa coach. He is just such a phenomenal coach. Already has Iowa in the Sweet 16 in year one. Coming off of all the years of just mad that Fran McCaffrey took him in, but Bennett Sturts is their best player. Tavion Banks was big in this game as well. I just think it's really funny though that you got a team from Iowa and a team from Nebraska, two of the biggest farm countries in America, beating up a little old Houston, Texas.
What else do you have to do out there?
hmm
I won't get into that. Number 1 Michigan is going to be meeting number 4 seed Alabama. Michigan had a fairly easy time with St. Louis, 95-72. St. Louis did very well in the tournament this season. Alabama defeated Texas Tech. I don't think there was too much of a problem there. 90-65, the final score.
I did not anticipate Alabama beating Texas Tech by 25. I I thought with Aiden Holloway gone, I thought he that was going to sink Alabama. Like I still thought they could get past Hofstra in the first round, but this is where I thought Texas Tech would get them. And then Alabama went out and hit like 18 threes in this game. And when this offense clicks, you get performances like that. And as you said, St. Louis put up 100 points, 102 points on Georgia in their first game, and they were competitive with Michigan for a little while, but Michigan's size and just overall talent just won out in the end. And Michigan against Alabama should be a lot of fun.
Number three, Illinois with a 76-55 win over VCU will be meeting number two seed Houston, who defeated Texas A&M fairly easily, 88-57.
Yeah, this is a de facto home game for Houston. It is being played in Houston. Yeah, both of these teams had relative ease with their opponents. It was the Illinois beat VCU by 21, and we know what happened with VCU in North Carolina. Carolina blowing a 19-point lead and losing in overtime, and probably costing Hubert Davis's job. Houston is they're playing like the Houston we know, and we know just really tenacious defensively, really crisp offensively. They've held both of their opponents to under 60 points in their two games, and Illinois is a team that they can shoot the ball really well. So I think this is going to be a phenomenal game between these two.
Up next, and our last pairing here in the Sweet 16 is number six, Tennessee, taking on number two seed Iowa. Tennessee defeated Virginia 79-72, and Iowa State took out Kentucky's knees 82-63.
Yeah, the thing I was really intrigued by Iowa State and what they did against Kentucky because Iowa State was without their best player and arguably one of the best players in the country, and Joshua Jefferson. He sprained his ankle in the opening round game, only played a few minutes, but it didn't matter. And they were down double digits in the first half, and I think from like the 2 minute, like the 90-second mark on for the rest of the game, they outscored Kentucky by something like 30 something points and just completely cruised to victory. The Tennessee Virginia game was a lot of fun, actually. Uh, it was close. Like Virginia could never really consistently pull when they got the lead, could never consistently pull away. I think their largest lead of the game was like 4 points. It was more in Tennessee's favor throughout the way, but the Hoos just kind of hung around. And I have some issues with the officiating in that game, but I'm not going to put it all on that. I just feel like at the same time Tennessee just made more plays in that game, and they deserve to move on. Still, I even put this out on social media last night. I'm like, you know, if you would have told me, a year ago Virginia would have gone 30-6, would have made the finished second in the ACC, made the ACC championship game, got to the NCAA tournament as a three seed, win a game, I would 100% take that. Now it's important to build on it because there's some really key pieces off this team that are gone. Jakari White's graduating. Ugono Onienso's gone. Dallin Hall's gone. Sam Lewis will be back. I'm Testa Ritter right now. I think he's open to coming back, but I think there's a chance to play pro ball again. He might go do that. Um, we get Chance Mallory back for year number two. So I think there are some good building pieces to build around with Virginia. It's just a matter, and they have no commits coming in for 2026, so they're going to go strictly portal with this class. And I am I hesitate to say it's gonna work how that's gonna work out because I feel like you really need to attack both ends. And having no commits for the 2026 class, I think, is a little bit concerning. But
Very.
if he crushes it in the portal, then I'll that's on me.
Yeah, that's just the way it is. Chance Mallory impresses me. His Youth and inexperience in that game showed a bit with some of his mistakes, and
Yeah, and
I
that
just,
that go ahead.
I was looking at him and I'm thinking, this guy is going to be one hell of a contributor to this team, far beyond what he's showing right now. He just needed that seasoning, and I think that when he comes back next season, Chance Mallory is going to be um, an outstanding player for this team in a big way. So
Yeah, an off season of to mature and improve his game. He'll probably take over the starting point guard role, and I can't anticipate a drop off. I think he's just only going to get better, and then we saw what kind of spark he can be, and I'm very excited for his future.
yeah, looks good there. Let's go over to the women, the WBIT, which I have unfortunately sort of skipped over in the past. But we'll talk a little bit here about the WBIT. Stanford, in the quarters, their second round win over Quinnipiac, 81-69. They'll either be facing BYU or Missouri. There are games going on tonight, so and we're recording on Monday night. Cal is in the quarters, second round win over K State, 83-75. They're going to be meeting Columbia next. Georgia Tech lost in the first round, 69-65 to K State, and Miami lost in the second to Wisconsin, 72-65. Some decent showing by some teams there out of the ACC that didn't do they didn't do that bad, but they weren't at top tier in the ACC, but they took advantage again, like I was saying about the NIT. You take advantage of these offerings to play in these tournaments. It gets you the exposure, it gets you the seasoning that you need for players that are coming back, and it is nothing more than a positive for your team and your players.
Absolutely. And especially these teams, if they're going to return some of their key pieces, and yeah, who's to say what that's going to be like when the portal opens? But if you can, build around some of these players, it's only gonna do more good than bad.
All right, so right up front, okay, I'm not going to go to this game first, but I'm going to say this is where I eat crow or hat again, because I said this at the beginning of the show. Virginia. We've talked about the Virginia women and how they looked, their Q1 wins or lack thereof, et cetera, and just it didn't feel as if this team had what it takes to do what they're doing, and they're proving everybody wrong. And man, they came up with an exciting win, and we'll talk about that here in just a few moments. First, let's talk about this matchup. That's I mean it's UConn. They just absolutely hammered Syracuse, and number one seed, and there's a good reason for it. Is going to be taking on number four seed UNC, who defeated Maryland 74-66. A good showing there.
Did you see the halftime score of the Syracuse UConn game?
It was pretty embarrassing.
If you didn't know it, at halftime, UConn led 65-12.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we talked about this was going to happen. That
Yeah.
UConn is just that good.
Yeah. And the Syracuse beat Iowa State in the first round by 9. And we talked about, whoever won that game would probably end up just you know, being led to the slaughter, and that's exactly what happened here. But I was very impressed with the way the Syracuse team played in that first game against Iowa State. You have a player like Audi Crooks who can just dominate inside like that. She had 37 points in this game, but then again, she can't play a lick of defense. So um relied on Uche Izoji, who had 23 points in this game, on 11 and 19 shooting, and that was it was a key part of the game plan to get Syracuse to the original victory. But yeah, UConn is UConn, and I will be absolutely shocked if they don't win. Now, the Tar Heels again, they blew out Western Illinois 82-51 in the first game, and second game, this was a really fun, a really competitive ball game. Carolina led throughout, and then there's that viral video of Maryland's coach, kind of the way she talked to her player, which the player has said, this is how I want to be coached, and she had absolutely no problem with it. And you know, that's one of those things, you have to understand. Some people want to be coached that way, some people don't want to be coached that way. And the best coaches know how to adapt to, how to adapt to the players. But
Mhm.
I mean, obviously it didn't work in this game because Carolina won by 8 and they had two players score 20 points in this game. Carolina shot 49% from the field in this game. It was a really, really impressive effort by the Tar Heels to get to the Sweet 16.
You only get so much blood out of a turnip sometimes, or a tournament. Number four, Minnesota, it defeated Ole Miss 65-63. I'm not sure who they're going to be matched up with yet because that game I think is later on
Yeah,
Monday.
it's going to start after we're done recording. They're going to play the winner of the UCLA Oklahoma State, but first time in the Sweet 16 for the Gophers in over 20 years, back in the days of Lindsey Whalen and Janelle McCarville on the court for the Gophers. That was just again, another fun game. It came down to a shot with just a couple of, like less than a second left. It was Amaya Battle who had a jumper from the corner with like zero point 0.8 seconds left, and the Gophers got the win. Again, very impressed with the Gophers. Obviously, a school that's local to me, so I'm very happy to see them succeed.
Number six, Notre Dame, a game you were talking about earlier in the program, 83-73 over Ohio State. A bit of a surprise for people. It was an upset, but not so much a surprise if you've been keeping an eye on how Notre Dame has been. It's almost like they're coming into their own at the right time.
Yeah, and when Notre Dame's on the court, Hannah Hidalgo is going to be a factor. Her stat line in this game: 26 points, 13 rebounds, and 8 steals.
Wow.
Ohio State ended up turning the ball over 21 times in this game. And that's ultimately why Notre Dame won and is moving on to the Sweet 16.
One woman wrecking crew. They're going to be meeting.
Exactly. And you go back to our conversation with Megan a couple of weeks ago, and she even mentioned, hey, they're playing a lot better lately, and they are a dangerous team. And here, lo and behold, they're in the Sweet
Yeah.
16.
They either meet Illinois or Vandy, whoever wins that game.
They're up 18 with a minute left as we record, so we'll be the Commodores, who, again, a team I really, really like. That's going to be a tough, tough matchup for Notre Dame.
Next up, number three, Duke will be taking on number two, LSU. And I don't think we have to say anything at all about who we're going to be supporting here because there is no love lost for a certain
That
person.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Um,
Duke
yeah.
beat Baylor 69-46, and LSU had to, show their trashy flash. 101-47, Texas Tech.
Yeah, I'm just gonna just focus on Duke for a second here. Again, the defense, strong as usual. Baylor was 0 of 14 from 3 in this game and turned it over 23 times.
Amazing.
Shot 30% from the field. Um, that's Duke for you. They're just gonna grind you down defensively, and basically if you make shots on their defense, tip your cap.
All right. We've got South Carolina and USC playing each other, so we're going to find out who the winner in that game.
Yeah.
I'm going to say,
It's gonna be South Carolina. They're up 30 at halftime.
Okay. They're going to go on to meet number 4, Oklahoma, who defeated Michigan State 77-71.
Yeah, really competitive ball game in this one. Oklahoma, again, back in the Sweet 16, they had played a really good game against Michigan State, despite going 422 from three and turning it over 23 times. It was a sloppy ball game in that instance, but it was back and forth, it was a close game throughout, and Oklahoma obviously got the win.
Next is number 1 seed Texas with a 100-50 win over Oregon. Going to be meeting number 5 seed Kentucky, 74-73 win over those lovely Mountaineers from West Virginia, who have been putting on quite a show in basketball, men's and women's, as of late.
Yeah, again, another really, really fun game. West Virginia actually outscored Kentucky 23-12 in the fourth quarter to make this a game. It was a 10-point game starting the fourth quarter, and they came all the way back and just could not get it. They had a chance to win at the end of the game and just could not get it done. And Kentucky and Coach Kenny Brooks make it to the Sweet 16. And
Uh,
Texas is, they're Texas. When I did my women's bracket, I picked them to face UConn on the championship game. So, and I just kind of, when we were talking with Megan a couple of weeks ago and just talking about this team, I kind of was like, oh, I really like what this team brings, so I'm going to put
yeah,
them in my championship game.
and that you did. Number 3, TCU with a 62-59 win over Washington. Here's the game that I was alluding to just a few months ago. Number 10 seed Virginia, 83. Iowa 75 and 2 overtimes, and you can pick the ball up with Virginia because they have accomplished something here that has not been accomplished.
Yeah, 3 wins in 5 days. And it's very cardiac calves. They played the play-in game against Arizona State, won 57-55 in that one. Saturday they played Georgia in the 7-10 game. Saturday afternoon ended up winning in overtime 82-73. And then in double overtime beat the Hawkeyes 83-75. And this is I mean, those of you who follow ACC basketball know the name, but this is the national coming out party for Kamora Johnson. She had a double-double in the Arizona State game and has had 28 points in both the Georgia game uh and the Iowa game. And I laid out this scenario here, and it's, there is a chance it could happen. South Carolina is going to move on to the Sweet 16. They're going to play Oklahoma,
Mhm.
Virginia, and TCU is going to play Virginia. Or TCU is going to play Virginia, right? There is a scenario where Dawn Staley will face her alma mater for the right to go to the Final Four. And if you know obviously Dawn Staley was soured by the way they let Debbie Ryan go, but she is, kind of warmed her heart back to the school. And I, I just want to see I want to see it happen just for the stories that come out of that, because I know she is very fond of the University of Virginia again and just what they're doing under Coach Mox. And I'm I very much want to see that happen for because more content, right?
Yeah. Um, could very well. And our last ACC team in the women's tournament, number 3 seed Louisville, took out Alabama just by 1 point, 69-68. They're going to be facing number 2 Michigan, who is a 92-63 win over NC State.
Yeah, another one where Louisville had to hang on. This was a really close game throughout. Had to, like I said, hold on in the end to get the win. But again, a very impressive effort for the Cardinals. Yeah, and what seemed kind of like a down year. They're going to go to the Sweet 16, but that was a really uh, trying to my stats have disappeared, but they out rebounded Alabama 41 to the 24 in this game. But I mean, Alabama was in this game because they shot 12 and 26 from three. But like I said, Louisville out had the rebounding margin, just was able to get all the loose balls, and there's a reason they're in the Sweet 16, and Michigan's going to be a real tough task for them. Obviously, we just talked about them beating uh, NC State by 29. That's going to be, I mean, it's still going to be a fun game, but still a tall task for for Louisville.
Yeah, I think the remainder of the ACC teams that are in the tournament now, it becomes really challenging to move forward. I mean, extremely challenging. So we'll see how that all plays out over the next couple of days. It's just that simple. So good luck to all of the women and the men, and thank you, all of you players, you coaches, and you fans for providing a level of entertainment that is just phenomenal. It's just absolutely been a superb year, and we always look forward to this every year. It's a lot of fun. One thing I want to remind you of, make sure that you check out Will on TikTok. He is providing analysis and thoughts on games and programs and other things on his personal account on TikTok, and also on the ACC Nation TikTok. Go ahead and when you finish coughing, go ahead and tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah, ACC Nation Net on TikTok. I actually didn't do a ton of content over the weekends. I just got so wrapped up in the games that I really didn't do anything. But I'm gonna do some thoughts on some of the coaching hires here in the coming week on that, and then on my personal one, I'll be just doing some more just random musings about whatever I see, whatever happens in the world of college sports. That's at
Random
Will's
music.
World MN.
There we go. All right. You can also find ACC Nation on YouTube. We're on streaming radio. If you'd like to subscribe to our podcast, go to our website, accnation.net. We have a link there that will allow you to select whatever platform that you want to be on, whether it be Apple, Amazon, you name it. We're everywhere, and we're also on multiple platforms for streaming radio as well. So you can also find us on Facebook and X, um, you name it. We're trying to hit as much stuff as possible, just to get the word out to you. We appreciate you joining us and allowing us to come into your world. And until the next time, cheers.
School.